In a suburb of Dakar, an awful monument to man's greed and his folly, where most of the dead were women. This was once 5 clothing factories piled one on top of the other. Now it's a vast burial ground, hundreds of bodies never recovered, where the birds sing to themselves. Where the labels of clothes made for several brands, including Primark, are among the wreckage and still fluttering in the breeze. While the relatives of the dead cry out for their loved ones to come home. Adjiron here was working on the floor where clothes were made for retailers. It was like the apocalypse, she said, recalling how the building shook and she was trampled underfoot. Have any of you received compensation, I asked. One had received her salary, but there were no reliable lists of who worked here. And for the hundreds whose relatives were never found, no proof that they ever did. These relatives have told me that they blame this disaster on the owner of the building and on the owners of the factories inside the building, which was clearly unsafe. But what's very hard to avoid is the fact that this disaster happened in part because of the West's insatiable demand for cheap clothing. In this hospital, some of the hundreds of injured. Primark was just one of 20 or so foreign brands outsourcing to these workers. The company's announced it will pay each and every survivor and the families of the dead, though it's still working out how. Rosina Begum says she was sewing on the floor where the British retailer bought clothes. She was buried alive for 3 days. Rescuers couldn't free her, so she freed herself.
I said, give me a knife. I'll cut my own arm off. They gave me a knife and I cut my arm here.
Her sister was never found, so Rosina's just relieved to be alive. The rag trade gives over 4.5 million Bangladeshis work. It's mostly women heading to the factory gates. Economically empowered, yes, even if they are the lowest paid in the world. Smaller factories can be 21st century sweatshops. New buildings are supposed to apply for occupancy certificates. In the last 5 years, only 6 such certificates have been issued. We visited a factory full of children making t-shirts, trousers and tops. At least one of them looked about 9 years old. The owner said he had supplied shorts and jerseys to a buyer in the UK, though not a high street brand, and that a shipment to Canada was next. If you've long suspected that some of the clothes that we wear in the West are made by children, well, this place is the proof. And however much you rationalise it to yourself, however much you say, well, Bangladesh is a poor country, families need to eat, everybody needs to work, it's still very, very shocking when you actually see it for yourself. Everybody had heard about the latest disaster, but many seemed grateful to be here, including Shika, who told me she was 10.
My mum can't work in a clothing factory because I have a younger sister, so to provide for them, I have to work here. I want to be a sewing operator when I grow up and earn a big salary.
I am happy to work here and learn my work. If I can't do something, the supervisors are happy to teach me.
The owner says he knows this isn't legal. It didn't seem to matter to him. In 12 years, his factory has never been inspected. How do you feel as an employer breaking the law by employing children here?
Look, those who don't have an education have to do something to live. I develop their technical skills, so they will get a better job.
This shop floor takes ethics and safety seriously. It's worked with major brands including Primark and Tesco, who've both committed to enforcing tougher inspections and helping to pay for building repairs. But look out of the window and you can see where 8 people were recently burnt to death in a different factory next door. So is this country, with a record-breaking history of such disasters, really on the mend? And only now are you saying to me, well, we must sort this out?
Yeah, this has happened, of course. Definitely, nobody wants this kind of world record history. So we are really sorry for that. And from this incident, we must get the lesson that how we can overcome the situation.
With more than 1,100 dead, this has been some wake-up call. The graves of the unidentified sinking into the mud. But when the grief subsides, will it be back to business as usual or change for good? Jonathan Rugman, Channel 4 News, Bangladesh.